Hey everyone, SilverContrail here. Today, I'm actually back with a video for once. This time, I think I'm going to be coming back for a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to be trying to bring some new videos in just to get some things back out on my YouTube channel. I have stuff to talk about for once. And it's stuff that I won't be talking about on my articles for a long time because it mostly deals with new support coming in Cybernetic Horizon. The what will eventually be our July set. Usually we get them early August, late July. Cybernetic Horizons is awesome, to say the least. It's an awesome set. It's got a lot of great old retro support, and personally, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great set, not just because it has Dragunity cards in it. One of my, if not actually my favorite theme of all time. Dragunity hasn't had a new card since Dragunity Divine Lance, and in this set, it's getting 5 new cards. That's not a small number at all. In fact, I was expecting 1, maybe 2, when we heard the initial rumor. I didn't expect to get 5 of them, but it's welcome. The new support isn't game changing, but we'll talk about that a little bit. I kind of want to get some of my thoughts out. I've written about this on my blog already, so it's separate from my articles. You can find that out on a WordPress. But anyways, let's chat about what these new cards bring to the table. First of all, Dragunity Senatus, which is the new winged beast rider that we have, is it's about half of what I wanted. When we heard that there was new support coming, one of the things that I was really excited to hear about was, are we going to get a new rider who can go into synchro plays without a normal summon? Senatus does that, but it's very hard to special summon him in the first place. You can do it, but his effect is, it's hard to activate within a Dragunity deck that isn't specifically built for him. So real quickly, he's a level 4 winged beast, non-tuner monster. He has an ignition effect. You discard a Dragunity card, any Dragunity card. You can discard Divine Lance of the new Dragunity Legion trap if you want to. And then you equip a Dragunity tuner from your deck to him. After you do that, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except dragons. So that's not a huge deal. The dragon restriction still lets you make Crystal Wing, which is what you're going to be making anyways most of the time. Dragunity at its heart right now, I think, is Crystal Wing spam. It's the card that the deck needed ages ago. And now that it has them, there's not a lot of reason to not run it. So with Senatus, we have the opportunity to go ahead and play Ducks, 3 copies of, and Senatus, and assuming we can special summon Senatus, and we could just discard a Dragunity card, you can now make 2 level 8s a turn. You're not going to, of course, because you probably don't have the link fodder for it. You probably aren't putting together a link summon in the same turn that you're doing all of that. Maybe you are, in which case, more power to you. But the whole concept there is, instead of just normal summoning Ducks, your Ducks play gets stopped by some form of interruption, and your turn is over. Now you can play Senatus as a follow-up and essentially blow through all kinds of disruption, or at least attempt to. But of course, the challenge is, how do you get Senatus onto the field? Right? The easiest way is to normal summon it, but we already have a good normal summon card. So what do we do? So the second effect of Senatus, real quickly, is that if a Dragunity card would be destroyed by battle by card effect, you can destroy 1 Dragunity card equipped to this card instead. So it can save itself. It can save multiple monsters, and it's somewhat useful. There are going to be situations where you might play it, and then they might try to Ghost Ogre you, and you're not going to have a Dragunity card equipped to it in the first place. But there might be some situations in which you're using Divine Lance and that you might want to use that. They're going to be pretty few and far between. Let's be completely fair. You're not going to be sitting on Dragunity cards to begin with. So Senatus, as far as special summoning Senatus goes, we have a lot of cards that special summon level 4 monsters. We have Monster Reborn right now. We have Soul Charge. We have Divine Wind of Mist Valley, if you want to go that route, which isn't a bad option. We have Call the Haunted. You play all of those cards. But for Senatus, I think there's not as many consistent ways to build the deck around him. Again, Divine Wind of Mist Valley is probably the one way that kind of gets stuck in my head that I was thinking you could probably build a deck around Divine Wind of Mist Valley as an engine for Dragunity at large. The problem being is that you're playing out a lot of extra cards, you're reliant on a limited one-of field spell, you've got to play Harpy Dancer, now you have to search Harpy Dancer. There's a lot that can go wrong in that. And Senatus itself becomes copies 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Ducks only when you have a Dragunity card to discard. So now you're discarding a Dragunity card, right? To do that equip, you're exposing yourself to all kinds of interruption when you do that, right? If they Ghost Ogre you, you're out 2 cards. Good job. You probably will lose. And now you've got to discard extra tuners in your hand, so you don't want to play cards with consonants anymore because you want to keep those tuners around so that you can discard them with Senatus. Right? You don't want to be competing for discarding your Dragunity cards. Right? You're not going to want cards of consonants if you only have one Dragunity tuner in your hand, and you have a way to play Senatus, and you don't have a way to play Ducks. And, of course, that's going to eat into the number of cards that you have in your hand alongside Dragon Ravine. So you're discarding cards for Dragon Ravine, you're discarding cards for Senatus. There's not a lot of ways to get resources back in Dragunity. Very, very few ways to get resources back. And that's pretty dangerous because your end game plays... The whole point of Dragunity is a lot like the point of the Invoked engine, which is that, I can put Invoked Fusion down every single turn. Try to beat it. That's your challenge, is get ahead of that tempo. It's not crazy fast, but it is enough pressure you're putting on your opponent turn after turn after turn. And Dragunity used to be exactly that. It used to be, I'm going to summon Ducks, and I'm going to summon a Synchro Monster. And if you don't deal with that, I'm going to put another one right next to it next turn. If you don't deal with that one, I'm going to put a third one right next to it that turn. And then I'm going to use Pot of Avarice. I'm going to shuffle all that back in, and I'm going to keep doing it. And then they kill Pot of Avarice. And then they kill a lot more other things. but when the Heretic engine came out, it became, okay, now I'm going to build a board. Now you're going to try to break it, instead of the slow, kind of tempo-based game plan that was out there before. The problem, of course, is that you kind of want to play the deck as Crystal Wing spam. You kind of want to play it, but you don't really have the long-term resources to do that. That's the real kicker. You don't have the resources to do that. You want to play cards like Senatus so that you can get those plays through, get them out the door in the first place. But if you play the deck as a tempo control style, you're gonna run out of cards really quickly. You're just gonna get outgrinded by basically every deck that's out there. So most of the Dragunity decks you're gonna see online, most of the deck profiles, the gameplays you see using the new cards, are going to be the fast-paced decks that sort of spawned into existence when Heretic Dragon King of Atum came out. And now they're going to be link heavy, which is totally fair, but there are better decks to do that with, and it's a little disappointing to see that that's what Dragunity has become. But for me personally, but the more objective side of it is there are better decks that like Pendulums do what right now better than what Dragunity are ever going to be capable of doing. Way more consistently. Granted, things are going to be different in July, but how different? Certainly there will be another deck that's better at building big turn ones. Okay, so I've talked enough about Senatus. The long story short of this is that it's a card that does work on special summons. If we do get a way to special summon it very easily, that changes. If we had really good discard targets, things would change as well. Its restriction isn't too bad. It is limiting you to special summoning dragons for the rest of the turn, so like you can't special summon another wing base. I don't know why you would. Maybe you want to play like Garuda or do some combos with a Baby Rock or something. You can't. Oh, excuse me. I said from Extract. Which is you want to. There's not really any situations I can think of except if you were going to make Firewall. So you won't be able to make non-dragon link monsters, which is probably the biggest deal here. Because with Dragunity Knight Barca, now you might want to. Okay, so enough about Senators. It's good card, almost really good, solid, but it doesn't make the deck better. I guess it makes it marginally better, but it doesn't. It's just a little outdated is the problem. If it had a special summon effect, it would be fantastic, but it doesn't. So let's move on to the next card, which is Dragunity Knight Q's. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Q's. I'm not sure. I didn't look it up, so I'm going to call it Q's. So it's the new Phalanx that you probably won't play more than one copy of. At least that's the decision, the thinking and the rationale that I had when I first looked at this card, was that this is a card you play to get Barca, and then once you get Barca, you don't want to use this card anymore, or you don't really care to use this card anymore. Or you can use it to make a Scallon, I guess, but you can also use. You can also just not make a Scallon, which is probably the better play. But Q's is not a bad card. Its restriction is fairly heavy, but again, it's synchro scaling. Once you make Barca, you're going to make other things with the monsters you equip out of the graveyard. Once you make Scallon, you're done anyways, and you can play it like a Phalanx, and you can combo with Phalanx if you have to. You can play it just as a fourth Phalanx if you really want to. It's not a bad card. It's probably the best card that we got was Q's. And again, pretty much purely because it allows us to make Barca. And Barca is good in its sense because if you have a developed graveyard, if you have a bunch of tuners, Q's, Phalanxes, whatever, in your graveyard, well, Q's or Phalanx, you can't use the other ones. When Barca is summoned, it can equip the different monsters. And I don't have a screen for one, unfortunately, but it can equip the different tuners out of the graveyard to itself, and it can equip a whole bunch of them. So basically, you can select any number of Dragon-type Dragunity monsters in your graveyard, equip them to Barca when it's synchro summoned. Cool, awesome. Well, if you slap on a bunch of Phalanxes and Q's, you can then special summon them and make link plays. You have to get a little fancy to get to like Borreload from that, or anything that's like they have to have different names. But you can make a lot of stuff off of that. Make firewalls. You can do all kinds of crazy things to make all of your different link summons, which is crazy in the sense that then at that point Dux becomes a one card link 4, and you can. I'm pretty sure you can get the Borreload off of Dragunity Senators, which itself is really crazy. So Barca went up in price pretty much right after this came out. Originally, after it was discovered, right, that you could do this play, it was something that within very shortly after these cards were announced that I kind of figured out, and lots of other people did too. But I remember being on that Reddit thread, after this card was shown and saying like, you can make Barca and then get a bunch of monsters on the board for a link summon. Now, does that, it's a really awesome proactive way to get to your rank 4s. but other decks are just going to use Scapegoat. You know. So, is it enough to pick up Dragunity again? I don't think so. Is it probably one of the better plays that Dragunity has now? Absolutely. Like, no questions asked. The fact that Ducks can be a Link 4 or a Crystal Wing is it makes them worth playing. Absolutely. So that's Q's. So there's not really much to talk about Q's other than it lets you make things you couldn't make before. It lets you make Barca. So let's talk about the next card, which is the big bad Dragunity Escalon. So Escalon is just disappointing. Unfortunately it is. It's a 10. It's got 3300 attack. You can make it using Q's and a Vajrayana, but it's not the most exciting card in the game. It does have basically a machine gun banishing effect, so you can banish one out of your graveyard, a Dragunity monster, and then banish an opponent's monster. Cool. So you can like machine gun their field. They've got 5 monsters. You can kill them all, provided you can target them, provided they're affected by monster effects, provided they don't have some kind of interruption effect, provided they're not negation bodies, provided you have enough Dragunities in your graveyard to even banish that many, provided they don't have any back row or anything, because this card does not have any kind of protection. And although when it is destroyed, right, if it's synchro summoned and it's destroyed by opponent's card effect or by battle, you can special summon a Dragunity synchro with 3000 or less attack from your extra deck, and it's treated as a synchro summon, which is on its own actually really cool, because like if they killed it for some reason, you could summon a Vajrayana, equip the Q's from the graveyard, make another one. You wouldn't be able to use his destruction effect again. If it's destroyed, you wouldn't get another Vajrayana from that, but that's not terrible. It basically says, like, go ahead and Ghost Ogre me, because I'll just come right back and continue to wreak havoc on you. And it's also nice because it also gets Barca. So they blow this up and you get Barca. So, as a like boss synchro monster, Escalon itself isn't that crazy. It's cool, but it's not that crazy. The fact that you can then turn it around and get like a Barca or something is pretty good, though. But the question is, why wouldn't you just make Barca first then? But there's plenty of situations in which you might want to make this, banish cards, and then hopefully make a Barca after if you think they're going to blow you up, or like debate out removal or something. The problem there is that if they banish it, or they flip it face down, or they kick it back into the extra deck, well, you're out of luck. Nothing you can do there. All right. So let's talk about the other synchro. This one is really confusing. So Dragunity Knight Harlan is a very confusing monster. It's a synchro tuner, and if it's special, when it is special summoned, you can target a Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip it to this card. So it has that Vajrayana style effect, but it can be special summoned anytime and then get that effect, which is, again, pretty good. And then you can special summon your tuner, and then you can have 2 tuners on the board. Seems like a good play to me. No, so that's not very good, right? If it wasn't a tuner, that would actually be a lot better. But you can do some cute link plays with this as well. If you wanted to, for some reason, have Harlan and a tuner. There are some plays with the Crystal Needle Fiber, which who knows when we're getting that. But it's not terribly exciting. And then when Harlan is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Dragunity monster you control, equip this card to that target. So that actually comes in handy with a trap card that nobody is going to play. But it's also nice to just, connect that to a monster, and then if you could special summon it, that wouldn't be too bad. Dragunity Knight Millennium, the level 4 winged beast that can special summon a Dragunity Knight monster that's equipped to a card that you control, or a Dragunity card that's equipped to a card you control. Isn't too bad. Harlan gives 1,000 attack and defense. There's there's some random potential to try to pump up a Vajrayana to some insane numbers using Harlan, because Vajrayana will double the attack that it currently has, I believe. And so, like, you can do cool things with Divine Lance and, like, really pump up its attack. And then when you use its effect to double its attack, it goes really high. And so, there's something you could do there. I don't know if it would be useful or really consistently possible. Unfortunately, Harlan is just an awkward card. I think a lot of people were hoping for something with a negation effect as a level 6, or something that what I had thought about was some kind of level 6 that said, you know, you can equip one from the graveyard to it or whatever. But then it says something like, you can send a card that's equipped to it to the graveyard to do a thing on a quick effect, like whatever that might be. Whatever, if it's like negating a summon or negating an effect or destroying a monster, whatever it was, that would have been nice to have that as a level 6 option. But unfortunately, we didn't get that card. So Harloon's kind of interesting, but it's not. Again, it's just not really game breaking either. So it's a decent card that kind of doesn't contribute at all. And unfortunately, you know, amongst a sea of like one really good card for the theme and then some lukewarm cards that kind of halfway get to where we want them to be, there is one more card that remains, and that is Dragunity Legion. And Dragunity Legion is pretty much garbage. And it's mostly garbage because it's so antiquated. So once per turn, you can activate one of the 2 effects that it has, but you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Dragunity monsters. So you can either target a Dragunity card in your a Dragunity monster card in your spell and trap zone, special summon in defense position, which again, there's some utility for. There's reasons to do this, right? There's reasons to summon like a Harloon that's equipped. There's reasons to summon, you know, bigger monsters that get snapped on. Remember that Dragunity Arma Levitine can equip basically anything, any dragon monster. So you could equip on your big synchros and then special summon them. It's not terrible, but it's a trap. And then the second effect is you can target a Dragunity monster you control, equip one Dragunity monster from your graveyard to that target. This is something you're going to use in your opponent's turn, but the impact of what it's doing is so marginal that you're going to wish you had any other card. Like, it just doesn't do enough. You're going to need cards you're going to need to basically control Dragunity monsters that are either equipped with something, so you can special summon the monster, or 2, just on the field so that you can equip something to them. And it's in a developed graveyard, either way. It's just not good enough. There's a million and one things that could have been instead of this card. A spell card that searches a Dragunity monster right away, or a draw card, or literally like a card that says special summon a winged beast Dragunity from your deck. Like, those would have been good cards. What we have now just isn't that exciting. In fact, they're just not this good. They're just not that good. So, what is the Cybernetic Horizon outlook on Dragunity? Is the deck going to be super competitive? No, not likely. Is the deck better than it was? Yeah, I would say so. I think it's better than it was. I think the ability to get to Barca, the ability to make rank 4s, the ability to use a Scallon, they're really good. It's great assets. The extra deck is growing in good ways. You know, not in this is garbage. These are garbage cards. No one's ever going to play them. You're going to play these cards, and with the exception of Legion, of course. And they look cool, which is really the most important part. Harlan, I don't know if it will actually be played. A Scallon will definitely be played. It'll definitely be a one-of in the deck. There are going to be situations where you're going to want to make this card. Q's is going to be played. I think it might only be a one-of. I think. It depends on how consistently we end up getting Dragunity monsters into the graveyard. And then Senatus, I think, is also worth playing if we can figure out a really good way to play him. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Maybe at some point in the future. Right now, I've had some fun with Divine Wind and Mist Valley, and the reason being is that like Harpy Dancer is another card that's searchable by Harpy Harpist, which also searches Senatus. It searches Ducks. I'm pretty sure it searches Senatus. And so I think the deck has room to grow. I'm just double checking with Harpy Harpist real quick. No, it doesn't search Senatus. It searches 1500 or lower. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so you can search Ducks with it, which is kind of useful. But the end result is that Dragunity is it just still isn't as competitive as I want it to be. And it's not like Konami doesn't know how to make good support. Now I'm actually ranting. All right, so we'll call this quits, and hopefully we'll come back next time and we'll look at some builds, because got to get ready for Cybernetic Horizon's Dragunity. Got to get ready to lose to whatever nonsense deck is tearing up the competition much later. To be honest, I love Dragunity, but I am so much more excited for the Metaphys support. So we'll definitely talk about that at some point, because I love Metaphys, and the new support is actually amazing. It's just so good. It's exactly what the deck needed, and I've enjoyed it, playing it so far. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know if there's any topics you'd like me to cover. I'm mostly just doing things that I don't want to write about at the moment. Even though I did write about this one, but like I just want to do like quick stuff. And I realize this video is getting close to the 30-minute mark, so I guess I failed on that mark, but we'll try to make some shorter videos in the future. All right, if you made it through, thank you for watching, and until next time then.